run to the battle. Put our armor on, draw our swords. Let's run to the battle. Shout loud and glorify the Lord. Let's run to the battle. Put our armor on, draw our swords. Let's run to the battle. Shout loud and glorify the Lord. Come on, run. Let's run. Let's run. Run.
Every child must have a plan for dealing with 3 big emotions in their lives. And we as the parents help them develop that plan. The 3 big emotions are these: anger, sadness and disappointment, and anxiety. 3 big emotions. Now, the first thing we want to understand is that all emotions are good. God created us as emotional beings, and those emotions are all good to a point. For example, anger has as its purpose to point out something is wrong. It's like a light flashing on the dashboard. We don't know what the wrong is, but it's a light flashing that says something is wrong. Imagine that Billy's sitting on the couch or in a special chair watching TV, and he gets up and moves to the kitchen to get a drink, comes back, and his brother's sitting in that special chair, and he's mad. That's something outside of himself. But let's imagine that Billy's in his room. We're going to watch TV tonight. He knows we're going to watch TV. He has in his mind he's going to sit in the special chair. He comes out, finds his brother's already there, and now he's mad. He doesn't own the chair. His brother got there first. And so now the selfishness inside is generating that anger. We don't know whether the problem is inside or outside, but anger is pointing out that there's a problem. I like to tell kids that anger is good for identifying problems, but not good for solving them. Because when you use anger to solve problems, that's when people get hurt and relationships get damaged and problems happen. We must have different kinds of plans in place to deal with the challenges of life besides using anger. So anger can identify a problem, but it's not good for solving them. When we come to sadness and disappointment, many children are sad for very good reasons. Sometimes they're just trivial things they're disappointed about that they need to get over. But sadness has this purpose of helping us reevaluate our values. Even when you lose a loved one or something that's very valuable to you, there's this process of mourning that helps you wrestle with all of that inside of your heart. Or you can't go to the soccer game on Friday night and because it's raining, and so you have to readjust your values there as well. So that's the second area of emotion, is sadness and disappointment. The third one is anxiety. And when it comes to anxiety, it's a good emotion. It's what helps us be conscientious. So when your gas gauge gets down toward empty, you're motivated to do something about it. You're being conscientious. So you got a test on Friday coming up, and you want to make sure you study for that test. In each case, the emotions have a good part of them, but the emotions go up and down within this particular boundary. But when they cross the line, either above with high energy with anger or below with anxiety or sadness or depression, then they've crossed the line. And when it crosses the line, we need to know how to help them. The first thing we need to know is don't cross the line with them. Sometimes parents just respond to the child and react, and now we're in this argument. It's like children, when they get angry, they send out invitations to their anger party. Will you join me in my anger party? And some parents, RSVP, I'll be right there. And so now we have this big event going on where we need to truly transfer the responsibility for emotional management to the child. Emotional intelligence is really the ability to understand your own emotions, to be able to manage your own emotions, to see emotions in other people, and to help them manage their emotions or know how to respond to them at the same time. That's the essence of this emotional management that we want our children to be able to have. One of the practical tools that we use to do this, we call a T-chart. Now, a T-chart might say at the top of this piece of paper, Billy's anger plan for dealing with his brother or something like that, something very specific. Then it's a T, and on the top of the left-hand column, we might have the child's name Billy, and then we say in that top of that column, Billy, I want you to think of 5 things that you can do or you can say to help you when you start to get angry. Just when you started getting, not after you're angry. When you're starting to get angry, what are 5 things you can do or say? If the child has ADHD, we might stop at 3. But the point is, we're creating this list here of things you can do and things that you can say. Why do we choose do and say? Well, that's because Psalm 19:14 says, Lord, let the words of my mouth, that's what comes out, the doing, and the meditations of my heart, the things I say to myself inside of my heart, be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. We're just taking that and putting it onto a T-chart and saying to a child, you need to have a plan. When children start developing a plan for these different emotions, then it equips them to handle the challenges that they face in life. Now, what is a child going to say? You need to think of 3 or 5 things to do and say when you start to feel angry. Child's going to say, I don't know. Well, in that case, what we do is we move to the second part of the T-chart. This is where you as a parent can write ideas. We can interview other people to ask them how they deal with things. Grandma, grandpa, teachers, brothers and sisters, friends. We can interview all kinds of people because all people go through anger challenges and they have to have a plan. The question's an important one. The question is this: when you start to feel angry, how do you prevent yourself from exploding? And when you have that kind of a practical question and take that around, you get some great answers from people. Now, not all of those answers will help Billy deal with his anger. And so Billy needs to choose from the list of things that are here and start practicing some new ways to respond. A child might say, I'm going to step back, because when I step back, it allows me to kind of settle my heart. Or I'm going to walk around the room, or I'm going to go get a drink of water because that relaxes my muscles, or I'm going to take a deep breath. There's all kinds of ways that children can do or say to respond to what's going on. They might say, I don't want to be angry, or this is just going to take longer unless I recover. I'm trying to grow out of this, and this is a way for me to develop maturity in my life. So they say things to themselves, and they do things to help them with their plan, and they work it. And when they do this, then their anger starts to become more manageable for them because they have an actual plan. And you as the parent are stepping in and helping them develop that plan. I worked with a boy named Daniel. And Daniel was about 11 years old, and he was on a baseball team. And his coach sent him to me because Daniel would get angry on the mound. He was a pitcher. And they'd have to take him out of the game. He'd go into the dugout and put his hood over his head because he was just so disgusted with himself and embarrassed because he was so angry. And so he came to me, and we talked about it a little bit. We're trying to understand why he's angry, and then we started on the T-chart. I said, I can't give you a plan that Joe and I worked up. I can't give you one that I've worked on with Mary. You and I are going to develop a Daniel plan. And so we went to work. I said, what could be on your plan? Things you're going to do and things you're going to say. And so he said, well, here's some things I'm going to do. One is I'm not going to listen to the crowd, including my parents, because I get distracted too much and it makes me angry. He said also, I'm going to, if I throw one into the ground, I'm just going to laugh it off. If I throw a pitch and it didn't do what I wanted to do, I want to evaluate my arm and my leg and how I'm pitching. I'm going to focus on the next pitch instead of the one before. He started saying to himself, okay, I need to remain calm. So he's doing these things he's going to do and say. Send him back in. I only met with him 2 times, 2 weeks. And the coach is reporting this guy's doing remarkably well. In fact, he started saying to the other players on the team when they slam their mitt down or slam their bat down because they did poorly, you need to go see Dr. Turansky. You need to go see Dr. Turansky. And eventually then, I was invited in to talk to the parents and the students about anger and youth sports and help them to be able to manage that. We all need to help our children deal with a plan for dealing with those things. Let's just talk about anxiety just for a moment. Just be careful as a parent that you don't overemphasize safety, because when you overemphasize safety, then it generates anxiety. Now, safety is a value. We want to be safe. That's okay. But sometimes we overemphasize it, and when we overemphasize it because of disease or disaster or war or whatever it might be, when we start overemphasizing it, children start to become anxious. So we want to be very careful how we handle this, how we manage this idea of safety in our children's lives. It is a value, but it is not the absolute thing. In fact, you're not going to see on a Christian's car, on the back of their car, safety is my goal. Because as Christians, safety isn't our goal. Our goal is to serve the Lord. and it's missionaries, and it's Christians who will cross safety boundaries in order to witness to people. They'll be the ones who'll go into these hospitals, and they'll be able to care for other people, even though it may seem dangerous. In fact, I was once working with my grandchildren, a 3- and 5-year-old. We were at the park, and they were playing on the play equipment there, and this lady comes up with her 3-year-old, and she's sitting nearby, and her 3-year-old's playing on the play equipment, and every few seconds she said, "Be careful! Watch out!" And I'm getting really annoyed. So after a few minutes of this, I started yelling out to my grandchildren, "Take risks! Take risks!" Because I want to develop in my grandchildren the ability to take risks and not just be confined by safety and feel anxious about life. What parents do with their children is so powerful. So think about how you're going to help your children develop the plans that they need to manage these 3 big emotions, and you'll equip them with so much that will help them for the rest of their lives.
Run to the battle. Put your armor on, draw your sword. Let's run to the battle.